Hello everyone. Welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. We will continue with the review of Tensura Light Novel Volume 10. In the last episode, we introduced Mariabell and learned about her next step, which was to invite Rimuru to the joint meeting of the Western Council to discuss the qualifications for becoming a member. Indeed, this was a trap set by Mariabell, intending to defeat Demon Lord Rimuru through the meeting. In this episode, we will delve into the entire process of the meeting, where we will witness the complex scheme orchestrated by Mariabell and, of course, see how Rimuru turns danger into safety. Let's get started. First, let's look at Rimuru's side. The playful Meline was caught by Sky Queen Frey and brought back to her own country. It turns out she had sneaked out again to play with Rimuru. Although Meline was one of the strongest beings in the world, her childish demeanor showcased a massive contrast, which was why many people adored her. Next, the invitation from the Western Council was entirely anticipated by the Lord of Wisdom, although Rimuru had been engrossed in labyrinth battles lately and had wholly overlooked it. Fortunately, the Monster Federation had a rich pool of talents, and Rimuru was used to being a hands-off boss. Besides, Hinata, the leader of the Holy Knight Order, would also attend the Western Council's joint meeting. Lastly, apart from Rimuru, the representatives from the Monster Federation included Shuna, Rimuru, and Souei. Rimuru and his team arrived at the capital of Ingracia, the meeting venue. Led by a receptionist from the council, Rimuru, Shuna, and Rimuru checked into Ingracia's finest hotel, planning to relax and tour around for a day before attending the meeting. However, just as Rimuru happily finished touring the royal capital and was preparing to inquire about the details of the next day's meeting with Hinata at a designated shop, Souei, who was responsible for undercover investigations, suddenly reported in. After investigating, it was discovered that the merchants who caused trouble in the Monster Federation last time had no contact with other suspicious individuals, affirming that Duke Muse was pulling the strings behind the scenes. As Souei was clandestinely observing Duke Muse to find out the real mastermind, Duke Muse suddenly fell to the ground and stopped breathing. Souei speculated that a distant attack hit Muse. Oddly, until Muse fell, Souei sensed no suspicious presence around. Looking at Souei's remorseful expression, Rimuru slightly consoled him and began to ponder. If even Souei, one of the top entities in the Monster Federation, couldn't perceive any presence, it indicated that the attacker was hundreds of meters away, employing an undetectable method of attack, not magic or projectile. Suddenly, various signs reminded Rimuru of a weapon, a sniper rifle, which wasn't supposed to exist in this world. Hearing the term, sniper rifle, the three subordinates looked at Rimuru with puzzled faces, waiting for his explanation. At this moment, Hinata interjected from behind, joining the discussion and mentioning that Yuki Kagarazaka seemed to have handguns. In her knowledge, firearms had appeared in this world, but it was a secret known to a few in the Western nations and had not been mass-produced. Technically, the Monster Federation could manufacture firearms, but to prevent a breakdown in the world's balance of power, Rimuru decided to keep it at the research stage for now. Because of this, firearms had another purpose in this other world, to frame others for crimes. For those unaware of guns, if someone were suddenly shot, those standing nearby would naturally be under high suspicion, while those hundreds of meters away could easily evade suspicion. Rimuru realized there might be such traps in the joint meeting the next day, and he secretly stayed alert. Later, Hinata briefed Rimuru on the agenda for the next day's meeting, indicating that some might want to exploit the Monster Federation's resources and military strength, and some might provoke Rimuru when he was alone. However, to demonstrate a peaceful coexistence with humans, everyone on Rimuru's side agreed to be cautious and restrained, no matter the circumstances. Next, let's see the specifics of the meeting. The meeting started relatively smoothly. Besides a few nobles from big countries, most councillors greeted Rimuru warmly. The chairman proposed primary joining conditions such as adhering to international laws and providing military support. Since these were within Rimuru's expectations, Rimuru intended to sign the agreement after slightly modifying some proposals. However, everything changed after the councillors discussed the amendments and handed a document called a petition to Rimuru. In a space where even time seemed to have come to a halt, the kick table hovered in the air before gradually descending. The look in Hinata's eyes was frigid. Alongside the booming noise of the table crashing heavily onto the ground, Rimuru stepped on it, shattering it with force. Acting as if everything was proceeding according to a script, Rimuru respectfully took his seat, surveying the council members whose faces had turned pale. The chairman looked weary, apparently not having intended for things to go this way, but it was not the time for sympathy. The demands listed in the petition were minimal, but each one was intolerable. Firstly, the Sorcerer's Railway should be extended to Ingracia, with all associated costs and arrangements to be borne by the Monster Federation. Secondly, the Monster Federation was expected to aid in supplying high-quality equipment to enhance the armament of the Western countries. Thirdly, the Underground Labyrinth, a treasure belonging to humanity, should be operated with the involvement of the Council. Lastly, an annual fee was to be paid to join the Western Council, and only humans could serve as representatives. Monsters were not allowed. These unjust and worthless demands enraged Rimuru instantly. Furious, Rimuru questioned the audacity of the humans to impose such unequal conditions on a demon lord. Beside him, Shuna also smiled as she exerted her intimidating aura, urging the council members to break their silence and respond to Rimuru-sama's questions. Swallowed by the imposing aura, they stuttered in cold sweat, hurriedly trying to justify their actions. But their excuses only irritated Rimuru more. From the beginning, they had shown no respect towards the Monster Federation, treating them with disdain as mere monsters. The contract reflected a desire to see the citizens of the Monster Federation as slaves to the Western nations. In the midst of frantic excuses, the Lord of Wisdom alerted Rimuru to the presence of mental interference within the hall, similar to the manipulation Guy experienced during the labyrinth unveiling. Without hesitation, Rimuru ordered the interference removed, revealing that the previously silent council members were under someone's control. As if in a drama, the atmosphere changed drastically, with the council members now acknowledging the problematic nature of the demands, suggesting alterations had been made without their knowledge. Maintaining an air of anticipation, Rimuru stylishly revealed the mental interference to everyone. Shuna and the others admired Rimuru, while the conscious council members demanded explanations from those responsible for creating the proposal. Just as Rimuru pondered the mastermind behind this, footsteps echoed through the hall's doors, revealing a group of soldiers led by a robust man. Reiner, an A+ level warrior, arrived holding a magical tool capable of controlling monsters, the Dominance Orb, attempting to threaten Rimuru and his subordinates. The unexpected standoff created confusion and unease, although Hinata tried to stabilize the situation calmly. However, seated near the chairman, Duke Gavin revealed his involvement, wanting to seize this chance to control Rimuru. Prince Elric of the Ingracia Kingdom joined, belittling Hinata's loyalty and attributing her position to her beautiful face. As the atmosphere grew more hostile, with Reiner and Gavin making derogatory comments about taking Rimuru and Hinata as concubines, Hinata's anger and Rimuru's discomfort intensified, setting the stage for an impending conflict. Prince Elric continued his provocations, flaunting other A+ level individuals in his company, including the previously defeated adventurer Guy and the leader of the Green Rebellion, mocking Rimuru and Hinata's confidence. Despite the insults, Rimuru restrained himself to maintain his reputation. But the anger in the hall grew, not just from Hinata but also from the council members aware of the consequences of angering Lord Rimuru. A vivid example was the downfall of the Falmouth Kingdom. Rational council members rose to criticize Ingracia's actions, yet Elric mocked them dismissively, pushing the situation to a breaking point. While sighing at the unfolding chaos, Rimuru let events take their course, foreseeing the unpredictable development this meeting was steering towards with a mixture of resignation and a trace of expectation for the arising confrontations. Prince Elric then proposed that the council members express their stance, to stand with him in resisting Demon Lord Rimuru, or to choose to ally with Rimuru. While Elric believed that he had bribed most people, some supported him. But as time passed, most remained silent, not standing up to show support. This made the initially confident Elric suddenly awkward, as he found he only had the support of a few. The atmosphere in the venue became extraordinarily tense, with everyone realizing that Elric's plan had failed. In this dilemma, Rimuru maintained a calm and mocking attitude, pointing out Elric's failure. Even Hinata seized this opportunity to stir the atmosphere. The prince and his entourage were greatly shaken, seemingly not anticipating the current situation. Finally, the embarrassed group led by Elric decided to resort to their last method, using force to solve the problem. The big man Reiner and the swordsman Guy stepped forward, drawing their weapons and preparing to launch an attack. At the same time, Hinata stood up, albeit unarmed, with a cold smile, intending to engage in a one-on-one duel with Reiner, who had just severely insulted her. Without realizing the gap in their powers, Reiner boldly proclaimed that he would end Hinata's title of a saint. Indeed, Reiner, an existence that had surpassed A-class, was considered top-notch in Western countries. However, he did not know what was real, having distinguished martial prowess in peacetime but not having fought true monsters. This was why Reiner was ignorant of the threat of monsters, a sentiment shared by the swordsman Guy. Guy declared his challenge to Rimuru, pointing his holy sword at Rimuru. Frankly, this thing posed no threat to Rimuru at all. Yet, Rimuru prepared to step forward.
You showed no respect towards Rimuru-sama.
Before Rimuru could move, Shuna headed towards Guy with an indescribable force. Rimuru looked around to find Benimaru, also fixed in a posture, ready to move forward. When their eyes met, both wore awkward expressions. As swordsman Guy mocked Rimuru while unsheathing his holy sword, Shuna nearly burst into laughter, perhaps understanding Guy's strength fully through her skill. Rimuru, Benimaru, and Souei were prepared at the back, wholeheartedly cheering for Shuna. Thus, under the gaze of council members from various countries, both parties split into two groups and began to battle. Although it would be nice to narrate an epic battle, the difference in strength between the two sides was akin to that of an elephant and an ant, and the battle ended instantly. The first was the battle between Shuna and Guy. Guy showed no mercy, slashing at Shuna with his holy sword. However, Shuna remained unmoved, drawing a fan and breaking Guy's sword effortlessly in a flash. Guy let out a sound and felt like a stunned person. But Shuna didn't care much, mocking Guy while technically pushing him to the ground. Guy, clad in armor, panic-strickenly tried to stand, but Shuna did not give him the opportunity. Coldly looking down at Guy lying on the ground, Shuna started chanting a spell with a gentle voice. It was the most potent holy magic, particle disintegration. A layered magic circle gradually enveloped the astonished Guy, who struggled wildly. But as the incantation was nearing completion, escape became impossible. As the glow disappeared, Guy's body slowly revealed itself. His upper body armor completely vanished, leaving him naked and seated on the ground like a baby, tears and snot flowing unrestrained.
It seems the spell turned into a dud because my skill is not yet proficient,
Shuna casually remarked. But everyone present knew that to turn such destructive magic into a dud that just broke the armor without fully mastering the magic was utterly impossible. Thus, amid the surprised expressions of the onlookers, Shuna easily defeated Guy. Next was Hinata's battle, who, being even more powerful than a typical demon lord, approached without any superfluous movements. Reiner, however, did not respond at all. He was lifted by Hinata and then thrown out, laying motionless on the ground. Gavin and Elric, who did not understand the situation, were still yelling at Reiner to quickly deal with Hinata. But Reiner remained motionless, or rather, did not dare to move. When he was thrown out like an object, Reiner realized the gap in their strengths. The fear emanating from his soul made him lose control of his body. Reiner let out a rare tragic scream, crying like a child, holding his head with both hands, squatting on the ground with tears and drool flowing, his legs revealing a warm liquid in between. The outcome was determined. Rimuru stood up, smiling as he made his victory declaration, preparing to settle scores with Elric and his party for disturbing the order and insulting him. But everything was not over yet.
Alert! Malicious intent detected, targeting individual Elric.
In that instant, Rimuru's magical perception also sensed the killing intent. However, it wasn't directed at Rimuru but at Prince Elric. The intent was emanating from a figure 2 kilometers away, a slightly wild-looking redhead woman reflected in Rimuru's magical perception. Strangely, she was holding a weapon not of this world, a Walther P99 handgun. While Rimuru was somewhat surprised, there was essentially no threat at such a far distance with the handgun. Considering the effects of gravity and air resistance, even if the gun was enhanced with magic or was a sniper rifle, there were solid walls, making the act seemingly meaningless. However, Rimuru didn't have time to ponder as the redhead pulled the trigger. In that stretched moment, almost like a slow-motion scene, the bullet flew out of the barrel at an astonishing speed. Suddenly, it got absorbed into a black space.
Answer: it is a kind of spatial manipulation, spatial connection.
In an instant, the Lord of Wisdom came to a conclusion. The so-called spatial connection was the ability to connect 2 points, akin to a wormhole, allowing for the fast relocation between the two. As we mentioned before, in a world with little knowledge about firearms, if Elric died in this manner, the counselors would surely assume it was Rimuru who acted. Then, at a point 50 centimeters horizontally from Elric's head, a small black wormhole appeared, and a swift bullet flew out from it. Even if Rimuru dashed forward at this point, stopping it was impossible.
Alert, no problem. Shall I activate Beelzebub?
During this critical moment, without overthinking, Rimuru accepted the suggestion from the Lord of Wisdom. In the next moment, Demon Lord Rimuru's arm suddenly elongated, swallowing the deadly bullet. It was only when the alarm sounded that the surrounding council members started reacting, rushing to the prince's side. Due to this sudden event, the meeting was temporarily interrupted. During the period when they waited for the council members to calm down, Rimuru and his team had already commenced investigations into the sudden event. The perpetrator's goal was clearly to assassinate Prince Elric from an extreme distance, falsely implicating Rimuru, and fostering hostility between humans and the Monster Federation. As discussions enveloped the people present, various viewpoints on the assassination attempt were voiced. However, consensus on who was the mastermind behind the attack remained elusive. The primary suspect was Duke Gavin, who had harassed Rimuru initially, but due to a lack of evidence, Gavin remained unyielding. Just as Rimuru pondered whether to use force to resolve the issue, the hall's doors burst open, and the king of the Ingracia kingdom, adorned with thick golden hair, stepped in. Without delay, he bowed to the demon lord, apologized, and assured that his son and Duke Gavin would be disciplined, expressing a desire to foster friendly ties with Rimuru. Keen to avoid further escalation, Rimuru forgave Elric. Following this, the king took the prince and his party away. The meeting resumed, and the council members approved Rimuru's proposal, agreeing to the Monster Federation's admission into the Western Council on equal terms. Thus, the dramatic assembly drew to a close. Meanwhile, following Rimuru's orders, Souei set out to apprehend the assailant. He faced a red-haired woman mumbling to herself, Glenda Atlee, a former A-class mercenary wielding a weapon from another world. Since being summoned to this world, she had entrusted her life to her beloved gun, which would never betray her, augmented by her unique skill. Sniper. This skill bestowed her with abilities such as magic sense, predictive calculation, and spatial manipulation, with the latter allowing her to connect points in space, facilitating wormhole-like space jumps. This meant she could ignore obstacles, gravity, and air resistance, enabling bullets to strike targets without recoil. Yet, despite such potent abilities, she had experienced a total defeat in her past. She recalled fleeing desperately during the battle between Diablo and the 3 battle sages, abandoning her comrades to save herself, a lesson in the existence of powers beyond her understanding. This time, the bullet that should have shattered the prince's skull disappeared in a flash. Realizing Rimuru's overwhelming power, Glenda decided to retreat. Just then, Souei emerged from the shadows, reprimanding her underestimation of Rimuru. Startled yet resolute, Glenda braced for confrontation while seeking an opportunity to escape stealthily. In the ensuing battle, Glenda initiated an attack on Souei using a regular bullet, aiming to cause physical harm. Realizing the limited effect this would have, she swiftly transitioned to slashing him with a magically enhanced military knife. Souei evaded skillfully, only dodging the knife attacks and ignoring the bullets, showcasing a composed demeanor. In response, Glenda escalated her offense, employing a tactical combination of gun and knife maneuvers, with a focus on utilizing her magic-infused blade. Souei, capitalizing on a momentary gap, hinted at a counterattack with a slight finger movement. Recognizing the signal, Glenda skillfully created distance with a backflip, avoiding the ensuing attack that followed where she previously stood. Upping the ante, Glenda released a magical bullet amongst the regular ones, exploiting Souei's established defensive pattern and aiming to catch him off guard with a lethal surprise attack. The plan succeeded as the magical projectile severed Souei's right arm. Despite her victorious laughter, Glenda maintained a cautious stance, keenly observing Souei's reaction to the serious injury. Despite losing an arm, Souei stood unaffected by Glenda's laughter. Glenda activated her unique skill, Sniper, preparing her final gambit, carefully targeting Souei for her ultimate move. Bouncing magical bullet. Glenda fired 5 consecutive magical bullets that bypassed space to appear around Souei, striking vital spots and shattering his body. Believing Souei could not regenerate from the magic-disrupting bullets, Glenda sighed in relief as Souei dispersed into black smoke. But her respite was short-lived as Souei's voice resounded again. Turning frantically, she saw Souei alive and well. She attempted to retreat and attack, but a terrifying revelation dawned upon her. Souei's presence enveloped her from all directions, indicating the presence of numerous clones. Complimenting Glenda for defeating one of his clones, the surrounding Souei overpowered her, dictating the outcome clearly. Following the capture of Glenda, she was interrogated by Rimuru, Hinata, and others, from which 3 pivotal pieces of information were obtained. Firstly, the masterminds behind this operation were Grenbel Rosso of the Rosso family, and the Greed, Mariabell Rosso. Even when Glenda was still at the Western Holy Church, she had betrayed Luminous, and had been under Grenbel's surveillance ever since. Secondly, Yuki Kagurazaka, whom Rimuru had suspected all along, was actually under the control of Mariabell. This meant that all the suspicious actions of Yuki previously could be seen as orders issued by Mariabell. Thirdly, Glenda possessed a skill similar to weapon manifestation, allowing her to materialize her memories concretely. This implies that not only firearms but even hand grenades and other weapons can be replicated. Following the interrogation, Glenda, who found herself at a dead end due to the mission failure, pledged allegiance to Rimuru. She became a direct subordinate of Souei and began discreetly creating weapons for Rimuru, utilizing her skill akin to weapon manifestation. Thus, time flowed steadily, and before they knew it, the day to investigate the ruins had arrived. Rimuru, Gabta, Cheyenne, and Nalim donned specially prepared explorer outfits, spiritedly heading to the ruins' entrance alongside Ms. Kigali's team. We could see that Mariabell had established a 3-fold safety net in her attempts to defeat Rimuru during the meeting, which involved controlling the council members, the prince, and several powerful individuals and using Glenda to frame Rimuru. However, it was clear that Mariabell had underestimated the strength of Rimuru and his executives. As they embark on the ruin expedition, what tricks will Mariabell resort to? We will elaborate in detail in the next episode. That's all for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next one.